This is Joshua Hart here for Seconds Out. Delighted today to be joined by Danny Connor here over Zoom. Danny, thank you for your time first of all today. Much appreciated. And how is everything?
All good, mate. All good. Same old, same old. Just cracking on with life as you do. But yeah, all good, mate. Thank you. Oh,
Very
sorry,
good.
I'm under the camera there.
Very, very good to hear. We'll dive straight into things. We've just been chatting a bit off camera about Saturday night's action as you were walking over to the car. Um,
Yeah.
a great night, first of all. I think for many reasons. I believe, from what I said, it was the most entertaining Riyadh season car we had so far. When you just look at the card as a whole, what did you make of it?
Well, it was a wicked card. All good fights from top to bottom. I don't think I think Sky Nicholson's fight went a little bit under the radar.
Mm.
But I thought she did really well. She's been class. Like no one's come close to beating her yet. But she did really well against Raven Chapman. I thought the Cameron fight, obviously, against Whitaker, really good fight. Like from top to bottom, the card was class. So I really enjoyed it. I thought it was a really good show. To be fair, that Riyadh season has like totally transformed the game. To be quite honest, so yeah, really good. I enjoyed every minute of it.
We'll dive straight in. We'll go from top to, well, no, we'll go from bottom to top. We'll start off with Liam Cameron versus Ben Whittaker, a fight that didn't have as much attention as the other ones on the card for understandable reasons, but I think outside the main event has probably been the most talked about fight apart from that. Um, what did you make of the fight, first of all?
If I'm honest, mate, I thought it was a really good fight. Like it's a really good trade fight to make. I thought that's the type of fight that we were going to see what Ben Whittaker was like as a fighter from early doors, and just sort of see if he was, out of that level, like that sort of English British sort of level, and if he was ready to sort of move on to like European and sort of world honours. Personally, before the fight, like I didn't think that he would shine against Cameron. I felt like he overlooked Cameron from early on, and I thought I thought he was going to come unstuck. To be honest, I had a bet on it, but from the actual fight, Grant Smith done a really good job of recognising where Whitaker was open. And I see in the commentary they said like Whitaker slips to his right hand side. So as you throw the jab, he'll slip under the left, which is what I used to do quite a lot as a fighter actually. So you're open to the right hand, and Grant Smith noticed that from early on, and Cameron was just nailing him with the right hand every single time. And also every time he landed it, the corner was like, whoa! Like everyone, they made a massive point of letting Whitaker know that it had landed, and like, everyone knew that it had landed. And I think that got in Whitaker's head, mate. And I think he quit. He quit. There's no ifs, buts, or maybes about it. I think that he came unstuck. He started feeling sorry for himself, and he quit. And to be quite honest, I don't, you know, he is good for the game. He's one of them fighters. He's got like a bit of the naz about him in terms of his movement. Obviously, the punching power is nowhere near the level of Naz, but he's got the showmanship. But I just don't know where he's going to go from that now. Like he needs to, unless he fights Cameron again. I you know I can't you can't take him serious, can you? That needs to be like an immediate rematch for me. And whether or not he does that is another thing. So, we'll see. But yeah, I thought that Cameron won the fight, if I'm honest. I thought he was 3 rounds up. But you can't complain about the draw. It is what it is. But yeah, I thought that Whitaker came out, didn't look very good after that one at all.
Well, we respect the opinion. Obviously, we know that Ben was taken to hospital after the fight, and we are waiting to see the medical reports. But you mentioned obviously needing the rematch for Liam. I think it will be getting announced later on today that he is signing for Queensbury. Frank Warren's picked him up and took him under his wing. If it isn't
Yeah.
Ben Whittaker next for him, who would you like to see Liam Cameron go on to face?
I don't, you know what, if I'm honest, I think it's a bit of a tough one. Like, I think that I think he's ready for a European title or maybe even a British title shot, something like that. Is it Brad Pauls who's British champion in his weight?
No,
Not sure
it's
if it's the same weight. I
no,
think he's a
it,
weight above. I think he's
he's
a weight above, isn't he?
because yeah, it was at light heavyweight. I think Dan
Yeah, that's
Aziz
right. Yeah,
versus
he's a
Louis
light heavy.
Edmondson's fighting this weekend
Yeah.
for the vacant British at this light heavyweight.
See, that's a good fight to make straight away. Louis Edmondson and Cameron. I think that, well, obviously the winner if Louis does come through and does well. But yeah, I think Cameron and Louis Edmondson would be a really good fight. You got to think also like Cameron's been in the game years.
Hmm.
So, this Riyadh season has absolutely, opened doors for him, and Lee Eaton's done really well with him since he's come back. But yeah, personally, I think if I was Cameron, I'd obviously go where the money is, but I think I'd hang about a British level for a couple of fights, see where he's at, and then push on a little bit. Because you've got to remember also, Cameron's been inactive for quite a while. He's only sort of just come back in, jumped in with Lyndon Arthur, and then now again he's jumped. Obviously he's done his thing with Whitaker. So yeah, I'd like to see him get some of his flowers. To be honest, I'd like to see him have a few quid out of it, and maybe get a title, and then sort of try and push on. But I definitely think he's got a British title in him at least, or at least a European maybe.
Do you think for both of them next, it has to be a rematch between Cameron and Whitaker?
It doesn't have to be, because obviously, thing with boxing is really fickle. With within a couple of years, a couple of fights time, people will forget about that fight with Cameron. If Whitaker goes out there and looks good again against a couple of other opponents, don't get me wrong, the people that are calling for the Whitaker fight will obviously always bring that up. But boxing, people have a tendency to forget about stuff, and forget about the bad stuff people have done or the shit fights they've had, and they just sort of forget about it, and you sort of move on. Um, so for me, if I was Liam Cameron, like, it's all about the money. So you look, don't you? If the money's there for the Whitaker fight, and if it's big money, then you take it. But if not, he comes out of that fight looking like a winner, doesn't he? So it's like, but for Whitaker, I just think, as a man, as myself, as a fighter, I wouldn't be able to look myself in the mirror without taking that fight again. But then again, maybe that is why he is where he is and I am where I am. So it's one of them ones. Like, I think his team will make the decision around him, and he'll go with whatever his team say. But yeah, personally, if I'm Whitaker, I'd take that fight again, and I'd want to put that to bed before I moved on.
How hard do you feel it could be for him to move on? Because Ben's one of those prospects that has built such a much bigger profile than what the average prospect does. Um,
Yeah.
Hence why he's got a Riyadh season opportunity, because he's got a style that's eye-catching. Do you feel with social media nowadays and how much attention his fight has had, it'll make it a lot harder to move on from a bad performance?
Yes and no. Do you know what I mean? Yes and no, because like I said, that is the a lot of these fans, like, they forget about stuff like that. So a bad performance is a bad performance. But if he goes out there and he starts knocking people out again, then people won't really, people are gonna remember that Cameron fight for a while, but they're not gonna go on about it for too long. Like, yeah, it'll be something that's chucked up at him at press conferences if he's fighting people like Louis Edmondson down the line and people like that. But I just think, I think, was it who was the matchmaker for that? Was it John Wish at Sky?
For what, for Saturday?
Whoever, yeah.
I'm not sure. I'm not too sure. I can have a check though.
You know what it is? I just think that they've well overlooked Liam Cameron there. Like, for me, I would have kept him in with I would have probably kept him in with, like, the prospecty type kids that he can probably have his way with a little bit. But them old dogs like Liam Cameron, who know his way around the ring and has been in the gyms in Sheffield, like the Ingle gyms, Grant's gym, them gyms. He's been around there for years. He's experienced. But yeah, so I think it will be tough for. I think it'll be tougher for Whitaker to move on without putting that to bed, because he's got that ego, hasn't he? He's got that ego which is like really inflated, and that's going to hurt him. I see a photo. I don't know if it's true, but I see a photo where someone said he had punched a wall or something like that. So, however true that is, I don't know, but I think it'd be a lot tougher for Whitaker to move on than it will Liam Cameron. Liam Cameron can just go on, and like we said, I think it'll be straight in for a British or something like that pretty soon. So, it's not the be all and the end all for him, but for Whitaker, I think that he'd want to put that to bed before he moves on.
Well, and then just moving forward on the card, another big talking point that we had, Conor Ben, well, not Conor Ben, Chris Eubank fought against Kamil Zarameta, got the job done in the fashion that we all expected, and then was greeted by Conor Ben in the ring. The rivalry seems to have been reignited between the two. What did you make of Eubank's performance, first of all, on Saturday night?
Thought he done all right. For me, Eubank at his best is a pressure fighter.
Mm.
I don't think he's a boxer. I like Eubank when he comes forward. and he sticks it on people, and he's like high work rate, high punch output. That's the Eubank that I like. When he boxes on his back foot and he uses his jab, don't get me wrong, I think he serves a purpose and he does he does well. Says Moretto is like, what is he, like a European level sort of fighter? So Eubank, I thought he handled it pretty well, and looked pretty like dominating in the performance. Um, but yeah, for me, I just think Eubank's better when he's pushing forward and he's pressing, and that is to me vintage Chris Eubank, to be honest. But I don't think he'll do anything as a fighter. The way he boxes, I don't think he's a boxer. I think he's a fighter, and I don't think he's good enough to push on. Whether or not he beats Conor Ben is another thing. I think Conor Ben is a welterweight, to be quite honest. Like, he's not a welterweight, maybe a light middleweight at a push, but like we said, for the money, he's got to go and Conor's got to go and do what he's got to do, and I respect that. But I think Conor's best days will be a welter slash light middleweight. Um, and yeah, to be quite honest, I like Conor. I think he's a good fella. And I think the fight with Eubanks a 50-50. I think if Conor gets on him and lands early, then it could be a Conor Ben fight. I think he could knock him out. But again, if he lets Eubank sort of do what he wants to do, all the showboating stuff, gets on the jab and lets him dictate the fight, I think it could be a Eubank win. So that's at the 50-50 fight for me. But yeah, to be quite honest, I'd rather see Eubank in with Billy Joe. But
Fair enough. What is it about the Conor Ben fight? Do you think it is the biggest fight out there for Eubank right now? Obviously, I know Billy Joe has said that he is looking at coming back this year, has called out Eubank. But out of Billy Joe versus Eubank and Ben versus Eubank, which one do you feel is the bigger fight?
at the moment, of course it's Conor Ben, because that's what's being spoken about. Conor Ben's a little like relevant at the moment, whereas Billy Joe is sort of he's been inactive, hasn't he? He's not been around But obviously, we all know Billy Joe's back in the gym. He's getting his weight down, and he'll be back in the ring before you know it. But at the moment, yeah, of course, the Ben and the Eubank fight makes sense. Um, and like I said, whoever wins, you know, can potentially box Billy Joe off the back of that. So yeah, I think that it probably is a bigger fight at the moment. But to me, that's only because of Billy Joe's inactivity and the fact that he's not been in the gym. Well, he's been in the gym, but he's not been boxing. So
Fair enough. Just very quickly, want to get a word on the chief support of the night. Fabio Wardley versus Fraser Clark 2, round 13, and we thought we were going to get a couple more rounds, but it was just that one round needed on the night. Destructive demolition job from Fabio Wardley. What did you make of it?
well, Fabio Wardy, one thing you can say about that boy, he can punch. Like coming from that unlicensed background against someone like Fraser Clark, who's obviously a decorated amateur and has done really well. It just shows you that the pro game is totally different to the amateurs. And, it's not always about what you've done as an amateur. And, we saw that again with Ben Whittaker as well. Like, I just think that Fabio's obviously, he's been built really well. He's been developed really well and brought on with the right fights at the right time. And in the heavyweights, it takes one shot, and that's what we saw there. Like, I'm hearing that Fraser Clark's okay, and he had a minor operation, and he's back on the road to recovery, which is really good. But yeah, I think the sky's the limit for Fabio Wardley at the moment. And it'd be good to see what he can do after that. But one thing with Fabio Wardley is his game. He's going to come and have a fight, and he can really, really punch. So yeah, I think the sky's the limit, and it's going to be exciting to watch Fabio Wardley and see where he goes next.
What would you like to see him do next? Obviously, he's only one win away from winning the British title outright. But he's called for world level now. He feels that
Yeah.
he's above British level. What do you feel he should do?
Selfishly, I'd like to see him fight the winner of Dave Allen and Johnny Fisher. I'd like to see that fight next. I think Johnny Fisher's at the level now. Like, if he beats Dave Allen, that puts him in title contention for like a British. He's already won the Southern area, which is a really good benchmark. Like a sort of it sort of bought him a little bit of time, let him develop a little bit more as well. But I think that fight's a really good fight. I think that fight for me is the same sort of like you put that up there with like Marku fighting Congo and
Mm.
them sort of British level fights that are domestic dust ups, aren't they? Like
Yeah.
McKinson and Congo as well. them domestic dust ups are the best for me. I love them more than the world level fights, and I'd love to see Wardley in there with the winner of Dave Allen and Johnny Fisher, which I think will be. I can see Johnny Fisher. I think the right time, the timing's everything in boxing, and I think Johnny Fisher might have caught Dave Allen at the right time, and I think we could see a Johnny Fisher and Wardley fight up down the line. Well, it's definitely for Riyadh season anyway. I think
Mm.
if it's left to like the British sort of promoters, I don't think that would happen. But I think now to see that on Riyadh season's a possibility, you know.
Well, fair enough. And then just lastly, Artur Beterbiev versus Dmitry Bivol. The fight of the year in many boxing's eyes, and in many boxing fans' eyes, I mean, just based on the stars and how dominant they've both been. A lot of talk in the build-up where no one could quite pick a winner. And I feel like even though now we've seen the fight, we're still in that same situation where we still can't decide who'd win a rematch. But what did you make of the 12 rounds that they shared on Saturday night?
Oh, it's brilliant. It reminded me of Triple G and Canelo when they boxed the first time. Same sort of thing, like both the absolute, like the dominant guys in their division, and like obviously pushing for pound, like number one spots. Um, I thought, if I'm honest, I felt like Bivol won by a couple of rounds, but watching it back again, I can see like everyone, I can see the outrage with the 116, 112 card, but at the same time, the rounds were really close, and if you put a few of them rounds one way, the 116, 112 doesn't seem so far apart. And again, it's like what you go for. Is it the pressure of Beterbiev, or is it the clean, slick boxing of Bivol? For me, I like the boxing of Bivol, and I thought that he done really well keeping it long and like resting when he needed to, covering up when he needed to, and he was really efficient in that in that sense. But at the same time, I can see why the judges sort of sided with Beterbiev and just gave it to him when the pressure was on and he was pouring it on a little bit and coming forward. Like a couple of times in the fight, I thought Bivol might just be about to wilt. And then all of a sudden he'd come back with a three or a four punch salvo and come back and throw back. So yeah, I can see either way it went. Like I said, I felt like Bivol had done enough. But it is what it is, and it's one of them things. And I think Bivol summed it up perfectly in like his interview afterwards, where he was just saying like it is what it is. It's one of them things. It was a close fight, and you can't moan about it. So I'd like to see that fight again for sure. That I think that's definitely got a trilogy written all over it. That one.
How do you feel a rematch plays out?
Um, I think the Bivol beats him. I think that Bivol can do more than Beterbiev. I don't think Beterbiev is a boxer at all. Like he showed intelligence in the fight, in the fact that he weren't just flying forward and throwing loads of stupid shots. He was very economic in what he was doing with his shots. But at the same time, I felt like Bivol, if he wants to fight, he can fight. He can stand in the pocket, he can fight. Whereas though Beterbiev can't do that at a long distance like Bivol can. So I think that Bivol has more strings to his bow. So if I'm honest, I'd go with Bivol in the if they had a rematch. I think Bivol could beat him on points, maybe even stop him late. But yeah, so I'd go with Bivol in the rematch if there was one.
Well, Danny, thank you very much for your time this morning. Always good to talk, and hopefully we can see a rematch between Beterbiev and Bivol. But no, thank you
Yeah,
for your
that'd be
time.
good. Top man, thank you, mate.